Well, that's a red flag. An expression that we used to hear a little bit, but we hear a whole lot more now and is pretty common in different social media memes and fun videos, right? We think about this concept and it's been with us for a while. We also know that dating and thinking about relationships, any kind of relationship, has a natural analogy to thinking about how we hire. And so I want to dig into that a little bit today. One of the key pain points, definitely not the only one, but a key pain point that we see when we work with leaders to build hiring processes is that they're seeing red flags in candidates way too late in the process. They're finding something that makes them not likely to be able to thrive, to meet standards, to move the organization forward very late in the process. And that is a key opportunity for hiring assessment tools and for the hiring process and the candidate experience to be able to solve that problem. So let me talk a little bit about some things to think about when you're evaluating red flags. So first of all, it might be a great exercise to take your hiring managers and your recruiters, especially your hiring managers, and have them outline the common red flags that they see in candidates at too late of a stage in the game. Then you can use that information and you have it right in front of you to be able to think about, okay, well, when should we know confidently that a candidate can execute on that, that they have the scheduling potential, they're able to travel, they're comfortable with some of the parameters and have competence in the competencies that we need them to execute consistently on day one. So that might be a great first step. And then if you haven't already, of course, build a competency roadmap or framework for the job so that you have an understanding and everyone's on the same page of what's required for the role. A quick note on competencies, we can often think about skills, whether that's technical skills, knowledge, those pieces, but we often undercut the so-called soft skills when we're thinking about hiring. And we know that the vast majority of organizations, upwards of 90%, according to some recent talent surveys, are struggling with things like project management, leadership, customer service, time management even. And being able to assess and understand if you have some red flags happening in your hiring process around those key softer skills is absolutely key. We also know that the majority of our workforce right now is very open to leaving, even if they aren't able to. And a key reason for that intention to leave is emotional exhaustion. So getting an understanding, again, maybe from talking to hiring managers or exit interviews or talking to new hires, if they're feeling that emotional exhaustion from some of those softer competencies, whether that's customer service, working with a team, leadership, could be very fruitful for building a more efficient hiring process. Next, I want to talk about 3 key tools that are often easily deployed throughout your hiring process that can help you mitigate some of those red flags and finding them too late. The first one is a realistic job preview. And so we often do this with an assessment style realistic job preview where a candidate responds to a series of questions, scenarios, and they're able to freely share what they want. It's kept confidential from the hiring manager or recruiter or you, the employer. And then they get some feedback on how well they'd likely connect with your mission, with your vision, with your ways of doing things and the core expectations of the job. It can include things like critical scenarios and things around your culture, but it could also include what I love to call just the nuts and bolts things. That's stuff like schedule, skills, certifications, any number of things like that. The next piece, of course, would be hiring assessments to give you some information, especially with those softer interpersonal and cultural skill sets and competencies. How are they likely to perform on the job? And to be able to guide them through that and potentially be able to narrow or have more information about your candidates, even if you're not narrowing the applicant pool, to guide your interview. That's the heart of your hiring process, is the interview. And where we hopefully are not finding too many red flags at that point, we're more choosing who's going to best thrive and best maximize what we need in a current role. So for interviews, we want to look at how is the interview standardized? Are there set questions or a set job bank that everyone is working from? What is the workflow like? Is there a set cadence of interviews or set number of interviews? And how are we evaluating the information that we receive from the interview? So when we have those pieces in place or some constellation of those pieces and a good understanding of some of the red flags that we might have experienced that we wish we could have avoided, we're set up for success to help avoid those red flags and really focus on helping high quality, high potential candidates thrive throughout their hiring process and into the job.